Now, does anybody in this room know how to twerk? It's all in. And then you just move your bum up and down like that, and that's twerking.
No! Wait! Okay. Oh, wowzer. Listen, okay, and that clip right there just fucked up my whole argument. That clip right there fucked up my whole argument. No, you're gonna have to give me a minute. You're gonna have to give me a minute. You're gonna have to give me a minute because I was like, I don't really care if people dress up and shit and people are in drag and are just reading stories and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't care about that. That's not what I care for. Because it's not necessarily inherently sexual. Then you talk about twerking and the kids, and I'm like, shit, fuck. Okay, but yeah, preach. What's your problem? That's not where it's supposed to be. But what is your problem with people? It's just like, nah, B, there's ages for that. There's certain things that you don't want your kids to be exposed at a certain age. And the twerking part is not, no. What is you doing?
This place has to be running out of power.
I don't give a fuck that they're drag queens.
No.
I don't want no grown adult teaching kids about fucking twerking in schools. Forget that there's a drag queen running up on karate. I don't even care. Yeah. I wouldn't want a man or a woman on all fours.
Or another kid.
What is happening?
Nah, B.
And people are clapping. Adults are sitting there in cognitive dissonance, sexualizing the child in a way that's so abnormal. This used to be racy stuff for adults in music videos to do way back in the day. And even back then, it was y'all doing this to kids.
Nah, B. That's not it. That's not it.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
Who wants to be a drag queen when they grow up?
Drag should be an all ages thing, and some people consider it provocative. It's not inappropriate.
I just looked at a 9-year-old. What the fuck am I?
Anyone can do drag. Everyone can do drag.
Bro, it's just so fucking weird.
It is a little weird.
Goddamn weird. Let's keep it a stack. I'm gonna say this: drag queens are not for kids. Drag shows are not for kids. The whole history and the concept at its roots are not for children. And y'all trying to sell this thing as if it is a fucking lie. And it's a weird one.
You know what? Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
I went to my daughter's school yesterday, and I had to pick her up. You know, she's 9. I had to pick her up from her pole dance class. Yeah, it's a good fitness program. You know, it helps with the strength and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
If you're taking pole dance and you're removing the X-working fact of the pole dance, you're gentrifying it. It's linked. Yeah, let's not act like. No, it's not. It's not that. It's something else. It's that.
What in the hell has a drag queen ever done to make you have so much respect for them and admire them so much? Other than put on makeup and jump on the floor and writhe around and do sexual things on stage. I have absolutely no idea why you would want that to influence your child. Would you want a stripper or a star to influence your child? It makes no sense at all. A drag queen performs in a nightclub for adults. There is a lot of filth that goes on, a lot of sexual stuff that goes on. We have already had a reputation of being pedophiles and being perverts and deviants. We don't need you to bring your children around. So you keep your kids at home, or take them to Disneyland, or take them to Chuck E. Cheese.
Somebody said, is drag inherently sexual? I think yeah. If it's not sexual, it has to do with like sexual roles and everything. I think it's I think it's safe to say that it should probably be like adult. Probably adult or over. Like, is a kid really gonna understand or conceptualize stuff around drag? Like, I don't know. I think it's probably safe to just say it should probably be like an adult thing.
Antarctica. Or even when I'm taking a shit, I need to have access to all my programs. Hey! But sometimes the internet doesn't allow me for that because it's restricted because of the area that I'm in. Yeah, and for that, I need a system that allows me to change my location. And that's called a VPN changer. Yes, and the wonderful VPN that I'm using is Surfshark. It allows you to just change the location of where you are. And so you can watch everything that you want, no matter where you're at. Right now with Surfshark, you can just use promo code ABBA and Preach. Use promo code ABBA and Preach, and you're gonna be able to have 83% off. Plus, there's a plus, 3 months extra free. I know, crazy. Get on it,
guys.
Stop yelling.
Hold up. You can extend it to a lot of different lines of work.
Yeah.
That are quote unquote legal, but I still wouldn't want them. Y'all gonna do shows for escorts too? Like, what is it about a drag queen that you feel are fit to be educators? One, and two, even if it's just dumb education stuff that they do and that anybody can really teach, why do we need drag queens to do it? Is this some kind of initiative for what though? I don't even understand what the point of this kind of thing is. To make kids realize that drag queen. Why do kids need to realize that? Teach that shit when they're older. We're not doing that for strippers. We're not doing that for a lot of other lines of work that are for adults only. Like, it's a very bizarre thing that I'm watching unfold in front of me. Right?
I feel like it was relatively common where I grew up for young boys to have birthday parties at Hooters. Really? Maybe just because I grew up in a religious household. That seems like it would have been really weird. I've never heard that before. But I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but I'm saying I've never heard that before.
Grown-ass men cosplay as women with these like ridiculous makeup and outfits, doing outfits that are hypersexualized, okay? And we're sending them off. What a confusing fucking thing to witness. As a grown man, I watch that shit, I'm like, that's weird. Y'all doing that for kids? And trying to convince them it's cool? Why? Can anyone tell me? I'm curious. In what ways is educational at any point? Why do I need a drag queen to come teach us stuff? And guess what? Some of the content they teach is a little bit sus too, but we won't even go to that. Why do we need this? Why is this good for the curriculum? Vast majority of U.S. adults, including parents, say they don't want their kids involved in any of this kind of drag.
I wash my hands. Someone's got it. Hold on.
So why is the education system pushing this shit so hard? I'm really curious.
Wait, who was that? Who just joined and said that?
What's the sensibilization that they want to create? I don't know.
It's like going to a field trip in a brewery when you're 5. Why would I go in a brewery? Nothing bad is gonna happen there. Technically, it's. I mean, they're not gonna drink, but they're gonna go to a brewery to see how we make beer. Why don't they do? It's not its place. It's not the time. It's not the place. Well, what do you mean? Like, they're kids. They're under 18 and everything and stuff. It's chemistry. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but no, there's a reason why we don't do it.
Gotta say, I fundamentally disagree with the take that drag is inherently sexual. Plenty of examples of non-sexualized cross-dressing. I can't think of any. Cross-dressing, every way I've heard cross-dressing expressed to me, has been a pretty sexual thing. That's how I've heard it described. That men like to wear women's clothing. It feels very unique. It can feel soft and special against your body, whatever. It feels like it all has kind of a sexual slant to it. Pantomimi? Yeah, I don't know. If you're gonna bring up some like weird esoteric shit that like less than 1% of the population even fucking knows about, then maybe that, but nobody knows about that. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody cares about that. So yeah, if there's some other like weird shit, I don't know, but 99% of people are gonna associate drag with guys dressing up in like incredibly feminized, like hyper exaggerated outfits and shit that most people are gonna feels a little bit sexual or whatever.
That's it. I wouldn't go on a field trip on a brewery, in a brewery.
And I'm not even one of these conservative folks who feel like all this LGBTQ stuff is crazy. I don't even care.
It's not even that.
I don't want straight people doing this. I don't want whatever else doing. I don't care.
Drag is like burlesque. Technically, you can have it and have it not be sexual, but it's going to be rare. Yeah, but I think that like there was a world where it was probably okay. I don't think it's inherently necessarily bad for like if you want to do like if drag people want to go and read books at libraries, I think that's okay. But it seems like there's too many people willing to defend like the twerking shit or willing to defend like the weird shit, and that it's probably just have to toss all of it. Like that's just how it goes. Until you fucking retards can learn to behave yourselves and have like reasonable positions on things, you probably have to get rid of all of it. That's just kind of how it works. Like
defend this stuff, or you're like, no, this is fantastic, this is great. You look very suspicious to parents.
There was a thing that happened on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Nicki Minaj?
With that kid. I was like...
And they were clapping.
Yeah, okay. That kid's role model is Nicki Minaj. And I understand, like, the whatever you call it, the Nicki Minaj fans are going to probably come after us. And that kid was like, yeah, Nicki, and then baby, and Star Shit or Meant to Fly. She has other songs. When that kids go on YouTube and then go, yeah, and I know it's not Nicki's fault. Like, yeah, the parents should, whatever. Not Nicki's not a role model for kids. It's not a role model that I want for kids. It's a role model for other people, for other things, and I get that. For kids, that age, nah, I'm sorry, I'm not having it. No. She got other songs. Yes, an anaconda is not a snake.
But you got kids singing that shit. Super.
So it's like, and then I know,
and I don't even think it's just that. Even the violent stuff, I don't think is great. No. I ain't fucking having my son, my kids trying to listen to drill all day. Are you crazy?
Yeah, a kid's gonna come to me like, yeah, Nardo Wick is my.
Bro, listen. I just want people to rethink some of this stuff. Forget the political aspect of it. I don't care. What do you think is right for children?
What? Hello?
These kids should be visited by escorts.
I want to talk to you about this drag queen, like the drag queen story hour stuff. So you're talking about how like drag is usually more often than not sexualized, and I think you're correct about that. But I think a lot of drag performances around like that are specifically tailored toward kids are also trying to be more like dressed up like a princess and almost takes on sort of a, you know, a more child safe sort of approach, right? It's not intended to be sexy or anything like that.
Yeah, but why? I guess why at all?
Well, think of like clown shows and stuff, right? They're performances for kids. You put on a show for kids. It's exaggerated kind of gestures, exaggerated
No,
looks.
I disagree. It's not like a... Because in clown shows, the clowns are meant to be laughed at. They look goofy, right? I don't think you would...
I'm looking at a lot of these images I'm looking at right now when I search for drag queen story hour, and they look pretty goofy. Here.
So wait, do you think that they would agree? I don't need results. I know that you wouldn't agree with this. That drag shows are designed to make men that dress as women laughable. You're supposed to laugh at them and laugh out their outfits. You really think that that's the message that most of these people want to sell?
Well, one of my issues with drag is that it tends to caricaturize and sort of go over the top with like feminine stereotypes and such. So I do have an issue with that sometimes. But some of the stuff is like, it just looks kind of goofy and colorful and kind of wild. I don't know. Well, let me just link you these search results and just tell me what you see.
No, it's not about. It's just everything you're telling me just sounds ultra incompatible with everybody that would support these types of things. The idea that you would laugh at somebody for doing something feminine, the idea that you would laugh at men that dress in women's clothing, the idea that you make a mockery or a joke out of men that wear women's clothing, like maybe if you want to hyper specify it to this drag thing, maybe, but I don't think any progressive would defend any of those ideas, like if they were given in a broader context. So I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Like, that sounds like a conservative take on drag shows. Like, drag shows are funny because it's so fucking hilarious to see men, like, hyper femininely dress and, like, make kind of like a mockery of the idea of, like, men dressing as women. Like, that sounds like a conservative take. I don't think a progressive would honestly give that take, unless it was only explicitly to defend drag shows.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a, you know, a mockery kind of take, like that's what they're supposed to be doing, but I think it takes on sort of a goofy look. It's intended to be over the top. It's not even so much meant to be like a mockery kind of thing. It's meant to be, in the case of like Drag Queen Story Hour, at least the images that I'm looking at right now, it's meant to be something that's like goofy and kind of child safe. So
I feel like with all the other arguments we have with like trans shit and like the social contagion of like trans ideas and all that shit, if we like going down the road of now like doing like lots of drag for kids, like it just seems like it plays right into conservative hands. Like maybe in another world where we weren't also like fighting over all the trans stuff too, maybe I'd feel differently. But like on top of like everything else we're talking about, it just seems like the easiest fodder to give conservatives to like see like, look, they are trying to like poison our kids' brains. Like here's cross-dressers going into schools. Right, especially when you consider like a lot of conservative people think that like trans women are just cross-dressers, so you're like feeding into that narrative perfectly.
Yeah, I think they're going to find that stuff regardless, even if it isn't there. They're looking for those things. They're looking for trouble, right? So
no, I don't agree with that. I don't think that. I don't let that rationale side anyone know. We can never use the thing like, oh, they're going to look for it anyway, so therefore we can do anything. No, I don't think that's true. No,
it's not that we can do anything, but it's that like just having sort of like a goofy, over-the-top, exaggerated look for a kid's show, because that's the kind of stuff that kids like. They like bright colors, they like things that are exaggerated, etc.
Yeah, but there's like a million ways to do that. That's not that's not drag. Drag is not the only way to do that. You can just have clown shit. You can have goofy costumes.
I mean, drag is one of many performances that could be appropriate for kids if it's not a sexualized type of drag. We have sexy clowns too, though it's a little weird, but we do have it. I wouldn't be suggesting that we have sexy clowns at a kid's birthday party, right?
What if you were to poll Americans on this? What do you think it stands for? How many of them would want like drag shows for their kids?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It does seem like there's a little bit more popularity with it these days, seeing that people are bringing kids to drag shows.
Okay, I feel like that number would pull at like less than like 15%, maybe less than 20%.
You might be right. It certainly wouldn't be near half.
Yeah, so it's like such a losing issue. Like, why?
When I look at it, I see, I mean, obviously there are sexualized drag shows, but overall, when I see drag shows that are, you know, or like Drag Queen Story Hour that are specifically tailored toward a children's audience, generally I see, though there are some exceptions, generally I see someone who's trying to do something that's very kid safe and friendly and with bright colors and not trying to sexualize. And there are the rare exceptions, you know, where there's somebody who's doing something that I would feel is inappropriate, dressing up scantily clad, sexy, dancing and such like that, showing kids how to twerk. Like those things I would find to be inappropriate. But overall, I find that most of these, the ones that I'm seeing when I search for this stuff and I look at it, it looks like it's just trying to be a fun and bright presentation for kids while reading them a story and telling them.
Sure. I mean, like I said, like there's a world where I can understand where like it's not a big deal. Like I don't necessarily think intrinsically like people doing drag, doing kid shows. I don't think there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that, but just in the broader context of like everything that's happening right now, it just feels like such a bad. It's like a bad look.
Okay, you're aware of how oftentimes we've got this kind of situation where it's like, when is a good time? It's like it's never a good time to do a certain thing, right? I feel like that's not a good argument. Like that's kind of like, for instance, the argument that, you know, Xander Hall and like was using on Shu about talking about the Balenciaga stuff. It's like not a good time. We just had a shooting at a gay club, right? And it's like, well, when is a good time? And then they were saying, well, there's so much going against the trans community right now. There's so much animosity against the trans community. It really isn't appropriate to talk about these things. It's like, well, hold on. This had nothing to do with that. It's just like we're trying to make these carve-outs for like, it's not a good time. Well, when will be a good time? There's always going to be some kind of animosity and pushback and negativity toward groups of people. I don't think we should just sit there and like carve out an indefinite amount of time to figure out, you know, to wait to do things or to talk about things, right?
I mean, can't we wait until like at least we've got some of the trans stuff figured out a little bit more? Like it feels like that's incredibly in flux at the moment.
Well,
before we bring like trans people to like kids' schools.
But it's such an
Or not
arbitrary
trans,
thing.
I'm sorry.
Like when does it become a good time, right? Like
When there's not
is
like
there-
waves of anti-trans legislation, and when anti-trans sentiment probably isn't like at an all-time high almost in terms of like how publicly visible it is. I mean, we're probably coming down a little bit from it, but
Yeah, I think we're a little bit on the downswing. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but there are plenty of people out there who've been doing this stuff for years as a fun thing and not trying to sexualize kids or do sexualized things in front of kids. And they're kind of getting the shaft with this, right? And it's been turned against them. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, like I don't necessarily disagree. I guess like there just has to be like a really strong disavowal of like any sexual connotation on any of it.
That I would love that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people with similar arguments like, well, it's not a good time for us to disavow these things.
Well, no, like there's never a good time for it to be sexual in front of children, right?
Yeah. No, it's for the disavowal, right? So,
oh, sure.
like, I wish people would disavow more strongly. I feel like I'm one of the
It's like the
people
kink
who
at
will-
pride argument all over again or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but I do want to I don't know. I wanted to come in and say, look, there are plenty of examples of people doing this in a non-sexualized manner that should be child safe and child appropriate. And I know you don't want to fuel the narratives of conservatives right now who are trying to spin this whole groomer narrative about us, but at the same time, I don't want to allow their hatred for us to just chain us and prevent us from doing things, or the queer community overall from being themselves and having fun and doing something that can even be beneficial, and edifying for children, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyways, that was about it. It was
Yep.
just like simple little pushback I wanted to give there.
All
but
right. Have fun.
I'll let you get back to your thing.
Be
Take
careful.
care.
Do you guys think that? And for what reason would you think that's a good idea?
And
So
God
then
bless
try to tell me why this would be good. That's all I want to know.
And-
If you can tell me, great.
And God bless them, but that's not.
Drag shows with children are fun if it isn't sexual. The pictures of drag shows with children in them aren't just outfits of big hair, it's actual sexual content. Yeah, I think that's probably the issue. Like, you can have drag shows that aren't sexual. That is true. I don't know if am I actually opposed to like drag, like if someone wants to dress up in crazy drag and go like read to kids at a library, it's probably not a bad thing. I probably don't care about that. I'm probably primed right now because I saw like the twerking shit. There just has to be a really, really, really strong disavowal of any like sexualization of it or any sexual content. I think that's like that's the huge thing about it, is there has to be a big disavowal of any sexual shit related to it.